hay guy delivering hay.
A hay guy?
Yeah.
So you found a hay guy?
Just using that place down the road. It's never open.
It's never open.
So they probably won't deliver the hay.
It's not my best work camera-wise, but for me, it's terrible, but you look great. Can we just give me a clap? Beautiful. And we're all in sync. And so, the idea of this is the first attempt at the first episode of a show we're calling Novelty Act, based on my show about a year ago, about being in a position because you're something different. We are going to talk about your extraordinary trip through Mongolia, but it's just, of course, there's going to be a dog mucking around, but we're just going to persevere. You're a hard interview to get, considering. Could you?
We live in the same house.
I know, that's the funny part.
I feel that it's your problem and lack of organisational skills, not mine.
This is not a bad setup, but this is true. So the reason we're going to have a chat, do you want to let her out?
My phone's ringing.
Your phone's ringing? Of course it is. This is no, I'm recording this. This is fine.
Mate, I told you.
We're burning battery and we are burning storage on cards.
I told you it was the hay man.
The fucking hay man. So, I've already got my first clip. I mean, that's a metaphor for our life, isn't it? Just
hey, if your car wasn't having a love affair with the mechanic, this would not be an issue.
My 30-year-old car needs a new engine. That's fine. We'll get there.
Every year.
Anyway, yes. So this show was supposed to be called Novelty Act. We're working on the premise that we're going to talk to people who are generally a unique entity wherever they are. You've got a pretty extraordinary story, considering we're going to talk about this adventure that you built up to over years and finally got to experience the Mongol Derby, your passion for horse riding, and also the weird fact that this joke that I made out of an experience of yours has now had a second life again. We will get to that at some point, but I guess I need to speak to you about your life working in construction and in your actual realm as a woman, which I always found very... How do you introduce yourself when people ask you what you do?
Oh, well, I generally say I'm a project manager, and then it's...
And what reaction do you get?
Well, as standard with my kind of deflective type of nature, I generally say I'm a project manager. I just sort of construct stuff. So we build water infrastructure. It's nothing exciting.
So
it's all very boring.
And you do that. You play it down. You play down that. You water construction in the driest continent on the planet is pretty interesting. I mean, how passionate are you about what you do during the day?
I've always been passionate about doing work that I feel leaves a legacy for the community. So I've always, I'm not going to be someone that is going to be a doctor or can save a life or anything like that. But I've always felt that if I can do things that leave a positive benefit for the community in my own way, that I'm doing something right. And I think, like you say, we live on the driest continent in the world, and water is a real issue in Australia, and it's something that is, as we go into the future, will become more political, and potentially, the poorer people, as they always do, will be the ones that suffer.
Yeah, we will. So what is...
Just went a bit deep on you there.
No, it's totally fine. That's totally what this is meant to be. This isn't an ABC interview. This is my podcast, and the reason we have you on...
It's late, right?
This is why it's... Hey, come on now. I was a journalist with 3 hours behind my bosses, and I used to always hit my deadline, so don't even try that shit. But it was funny. There was a few things in that introduction that you did there. You're never going to be a doctor. You could totally be a doctor if you wanted to, but you don't want to fix people. You would rather fix animals, so you're probably going to be a vet. But this is one of the things I find extraordinary though is that what's it like being a woman working in construction? Especially in your role, you're quite a way up. My favourite story is the one where you were running a meeting and a dude came in and told you to make him asked you to make him a cup of tea, and you're his superior, and you still did it. That blows my mind. Can you talk me through that story?
Well, it was actually a competitive bid process. So he was a proponent that was a part of a bid, and he came in and assumed that I was potentially maybe an administrative support person, and just sort of said, I'll have a black coffee, thanks, love. And so I went and made him a coffee. And then I sat down and ran the meeting and made everyone point out their roles. And I think he probably felt a bit sheepish, but it's also, that tells you a lot about a human, that they'll automatically make assumptions about people in the room. And also to have the gall to ask for a coffee straight up without having everyone in the room.
Sure, about that individual, so maybe we shouldn't
I didn't spit in his coffee that much, only a little bit.
So I guess we shouldn't assume that all men are like that in construction.
No, and the industry's changing, so yeah.
From when you entered to now, how much has it changed?
Oh, look, there's still parts of it that are very misogynistic and treat women, poorly, and it is difficult, especially when you walk into a room and you're the only, female, or you're the only person of colour, or there's all of these people with all of these aligned views and perceptions that all sit there and agree with each other. And there are times where you will say something and you'll have said it early in the meeting, you go, we should do this. And we'll get all the way towards the end of the meeting and some other person will come up with that solution. And everyone will be like, yeah, that's a great idea. And you're like, I was pretty sure I said it like 20 minutes. Like, we could have finished this meeting 20 minutes ago if that was all you needed to agree.
Do you find in that situation, do you gravitate towards the other women, the other people of colour? It sounds very much like a green room for me when I walk in and there's just a whole bunch of white dudes, and I'll find the one woman or the one brown person and just be...
Look, yes and no. So there's some really, really great experienced men in the industry that are acting as advocates for women and for people who are diverse. So I would never discount those people, and they're amazing. But I am probably protective, to be honest. So if I see people that come in that are different, that are, new to the industry and just learning, I'm very protective of them because I don't want to lose them. We lose so many young people and we lose good people because the hours are very restrictive at times. You're often forced to travel long distances. Anyone with a young family being put under those circumstances, and it's the same for people that work in the FIFO industry, it's not family friendly, and the industry has to change. The industry has to start looking at, we've got technology now, we can start doing things better. We can start needing people to be less on site, sorry, what am I doing?
Yep. No, I was going to get a pad and put it under your hand.
I think that those are, we need to challenge the industry, and the only way we're going to do that is by bringing people with diverse views and people who aren't just engineers. We need people that are scientists. We need people that have different backgrounds and different viewpoints that can do things differently.
Environmentally, you're very conscious of what's happening, especially in Australia. Feels like that keeps you up late at night. Does it stress you out where we're going environmentally?
I think, it does. It does. It's one thing that I think that the challenge is, we get told at an individual level there are things that we can do, and people will go out and they'll recycle and they'll, take public transport and do all of those sorts of things. But I think the real problem is the lack of acknowledgement from government and from peak industry bodies.
The bigger entities.
Yeah, the top end of town isn't pulling their weight, and they're greenwashing everything. So, I think
greenwashing. I haven't heard that phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I won't mention specific entities, but they're...
I understand your role and your place where, and that's legit. I'm going to be talking to people across industries and I want them to be honest and open, but I also know that when you're inside the beast, it's hard to kill it. But but no, I appreciate the position, but I do get what you mean. Hey, buy some credits for your airline. sure, we're the ones burning all this jet fuel.
Yeah, or get government funding for things that you know will never come to fruition
For
that
sure.
you'll then charge people for in the future
Yeah.
and make
well
huge
aware
amounts
of
of
it.
profits on.
Well, the hope is anybody listening or watching this will be a little bit more switched on than most people, or at least intrigued and appreciate the perspective. I do want to delve more in, not so much more into that, but that aspect of being a woman working in that industry, which from what you're saying has changed and evolved. That is your day-to-day life. Where do you say your actual profession ranks as far as your passions? Because, see, this is the thing. We were actually interrupted by a hay delivery, which I'll pop up at some point. But I'm lucky enough that I have a profession where I have several roles, several jobs, but whenever I introduce myself or people ask what I do, straight off the bat, I'm lucky enough to be able to say comedian. It's the first thing I say. As you know, I do a whole bunch of stuff. Where does your profession rank comparatively to your passion, which is horse riding? What is that? What was that glare?
I'm just thinking, like, where does my passion rank in comparison to everything in my life? And, that horse riding's the thing that gets me choked up. It's the thing that I'll never be good enough at. I suppose that sounds a bit strange, but it's a bit like maybe trying to learn an instrument where you'll get to that point, you'll think you're good, and then something will change, or you'll...
I don't know if I see guitarists get that emotional about. They're like, yeah, I'll get there. Like, they're generally stoned, but
maybe that would help.
No, that passion is beautiful to see. That passion is beautiful to see, but why does it affect you like that? I mean, I appreciate the passion and everything. Why does it rock you like that?
I don't know. I think there's always been a desire to want to learn about horses. And then when I started to get into the world, I just, like, you don't realise how many different levels there are to it and how complicated.
I've gotten a slight idea.
Yeah. I think there's people that are, I don't know. It's I don't know why it makes me feel that way. I just know that I've always had a firm belief in finding something that you're passionate about and pursuing it with everything you've got. And we talk a lot about your passion and how, I would never want to stand in the way of your comedy career and the things that you're so passionate about. And I think you and I both in some ways drive and inspire each other a little bit. Like, it's like that, he's worked 7 nights this week straight and driven over many hundreds of kilometres to do what you love. And for me, it's the same. Like, it's that thing that I'm happy to get up early in the morning for. I'm happy to do because it challenges me in a way that is really positive.
How does a girl in the Pilbara even start? Come across horse riding? Because
that came about from having 2 crazy friends, a strawberry blonde who was as mad as a cut snake,
more of a dirty blonde, really.
and another South African friend who came to school, and I just started hanging out with them and started being lucky enough to go and ride their horses, and was a bit of a barn rat, and I think a few people down at the local pony club.
See, now you just said barn rat. So you mucked out other people's stables, didn't you?
Yes, I'm a poo fairy.
Yeah. But it was essentially to give yourself an opportunity to ride other people's horses because you didn't have one of your own.
Yeah, and that is how a lot of people in the industry start. They don't.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, there's different level. There's levels to it, Craig.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people that want to get into it will start by either volunteering to help other people or volunteering at a local riding for the disabled, just as an opportunity to learn and then unfortunately it just is a downward spiral from there. You might have been cheaper just to take up heroin and be done with it.
I mean, cheap, yep.
Yeah.
Definitely cheaper. So the passion's there and it's been there for a long time. When did you first become aware of the Mongol Derby? Because when we first got together, it was all about equestrian and eventing. For you, I actually, you were talking about how there's levels, and I am kind of aware because I was asked to keep score once at one of your competitions, and I sat with quite an intense lady once who was doing the scoring for an event, a horse event, if you don't know.
Show jumping. Show
jumping, how would you describe it? It's a day event, everybody turns up and compete. Do you compete against each other? It is competing. And you do a course, you take your horse through a course, and you're given scores on time, difficulty.
So it's show jumping is a series of jumps that's timed, and then you get penalties for knocking the jumps over or going over or under the preferred optimal time.
So making jumps is one thing. This woman I was sitting with next minute, she's doing the scoring, and I've just got writing down the tallies, and she's taking points off people for the kind of boots they're wearing and the guards and it blew my mind.
She was picking out illegal gear.
Yeah.
That's what she was doing.
Yeah, she was a savage. But the commentary, I wish I could have recorded some of the stuff she was saying. It was hilarious.
She runs a very successful equestrian business actually, and is very, very, very good at what she does.
Boss lady for sure.
She's
absolutely. Awesome. And I wouldn't want to. Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I doubt she gets many counter arguments as well from people. And so gotten to see that facet of it and that community. So when did you actually start becoming aware of this endurance racing, which led you to the Mongol Derby, or which came first actually?
A lady in Western Australia, I think it was in 2014, she won it, Sam, and she started posting about her journey on social media. So she was kind of talking about her journey of getting there, and I just kind of looked at what the event was, and I was like, so it's a 1,000-kilometre horse race across the steppes of Mongolia. You're riding semi-wild Mongolian horses that are provided by local families, and you ride up to sort of 27 to 30 different horses over a period of 10 days. When I heard of that, I just went, this is ridiculous. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Most people would think that, yes.
And I just didn't think she'd do it. I was like, this is stupid. Like, this is suicide. There's no way, you're going to do it. Not only did Sam do it, she won. And I think it was that at that point, this little spark in my head went off, because prior to that, I'd worked in a company working in Southeast Asia, and I'd always wanted to go to Mongolia. I had this kind of real desire to go there, just being sort of one of the original birthplaces of the horse, the whole Genghis Khan thing. That was
he did some stuff.
He did some cool stuff. That was kind of where it started for me, and then I just got busy with life, and all of a sudden I was in.
To put that into perspective, though, that's like somebody who casually rides a bike every weekend.
Yeah.
Deciding, might have a crack at this Tour de France.
Yeah.
That's essentially that. I think that is probably the easiest way to compartmentalize it for other people about what you decided to do.
Less blood doping in the Mongol Derby.
Can't be proven, but yes, there may be some in the cyclists. So that was before you moved from Western Australia to Queensland.
Yes.
And then this little thing happened, COVID. You trained throughout COVID. What was it like having, because you were scheduled to go multiple times for the Mongol Derby. What was it like, first of all, enrolling for the first time, getting focused and like, right, I'm going to commit, I'm going to do this?
Yes, I think I'd been sort of talking about it, and then just got a bit of Dutch courage one night and thought, they're not going to accept me. And I remember, so I was sort of thinking it'll be fine. But I remember sending my application to some friends, and we had a giggle about it. And I sent it in, and then a couple of weeks later got a call back to have an interview and go through the assessment process. And then pretty much not long after that, COVID came. And so we sort of I spent 2020 training thinking that I was going to do the 2021 Derby. But as we kind of got closer and closer to that date, it became apparent that we wouldn't be able to get into Mongolia. There was just a lot of risk for such a small country with a very limited health system.
So how much of a gap was that between getting up the courage to enroll to being put off the first time? About 6 months?
No. So I enrolled in end of 2019, was accepted for the 2021 and then got pushed back. So it was about 12 months.
12 months.
Yeah.
And then you got pushed back twice?
No, got pushed back once, just to 2022.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were training pretty much for a solid year and then had to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I was there. How was that emotionally?
I was great. I wasn't ready. I had no clue. And I'd just been pottering around, just, riding around the block, doing a bit of road riding. I only had 2 horses to ride, so I wasn't riding a heap of different horses. And it was the best thing that happened was getting put back, because that then meant I had a bit more time, and that introduced me to an endurance riding stable.
So, and that's when your training elevated?
Well, I got a personal trainer. I pulled my finger out and thought, might need to go to the gym as well and maybe stop eating cake. I didn't stop eating cake. And then, just getting involved with endurance itself really opened my eyes to where I was going to be at. And it was a wake-up call I needed, I think. And then just being able to be around good people that could train you and teach you and support you was exactly what I needed to set me up for it.
Culturally, is there much of a difference between endurance races and eventers and equestrian?
There's a whole genre. We could literally write pages of a Wikipedia post about the different genres of horse riding people.
Okay, but how about just those 2 that I just highlighted? Let's just.
Well, you mentioned 3. So if you were going to compare endurance riders to show jumpers, endurance riders will travel literally hundreds and thousands of kilometres every year to go to events, and they'll camp weekends long. So, they spend literally hours and hours with their horses. I suppose show jumpers, it's a bit different. They will rock up to do a few classes and then jump back in their truck and go home.
And not in a disrespectful way, but weekend warriors as opposed to, say...
No. It's when you go to any equestrian event, there's different levels. So there's people that compete professionally that are taking horses out, and there are studs, so stables that are selling horses that take them out and compete professionally, and that's across all of the disciplines. Doesn't matter. That's how they make their money, right? They've got to get out.
I just assumed they already had it. All right, so you switched on. You've started becoming more focused. I remember there was this period before you flew out where this was it. You were going, there was no if buts, I want this. And then when it dawned on you that you might actually have to go and do this, you got nervous. You got a little bit, I won't say short, a little bit abrupt sometimes.
Well, I think the catalyst for that was I Googled how many people die in the Mongol Derby.
Yeah. I didn't do that.
I went down that rabbit hole a week or 2 before I left, and that was when the reality set in. I think I even remembered calling your mum and telling her where all of our insurance, sending her the link to all of our insurances so that if anything happened, because you wouldn't be able to find it, she could at least help with that.
And just on that, before, may as well chat about it now because we still haven't had a proper debrief about your experience in Mongolia, you and I. So, given how much we talk, let's record it and get it on camera the first time we actually get a debrief about the race, even though I'm aware we are 23 minutes in already. there was an accident you had, speaking of people dying, there was an accident you had with one of your horses many years ago where at the time, traumatic, awful situation. I ended up using it as inspiration for a joke that I made, and it's kind of blown back up again. Can you, well, for those who don't know, there are probably people that will eventually find this, and talk about the horse joke. I made a joke about you being kicked in the face by your horse a long time ago. I believe that was Speedy. Nope, Flash.
Yep.
Yes, Flash. How do you reflect on that situation? Because that's the most horrific. I'm pretty confident that's the worst injury you've had.
Yep. Yeah, that would be. Yep.
It'd have to be, surely.
Yeah.
You've had
one of the worst.
You've taken a few stumbles. Now, when you have an accident like that, how do you get back on the horse? How do you tackle that? Because you were just talking about people dying. You've had stumbles. You've been kicked in the head and concussed and severely.
That's probably why.
It's a bit of a reset. I mean, what did you have fear? Like you said, you researched people die, people get hurt, but did you actually have much fear of being hurt by the horse, or was it the race? What was scaring, if anything, did?
Oh, before I left for Mongolia, yeah, I think it was just there was a lot of unknowns. You know, the race organisers really try and set you up, and they don't sugarcoat anything. So they try to be very clear about what you're signing yourself up for. But you know, like anything, anyone that sets off on a big challenge, I think there's always those moments of trepidation where you think, "Oh, am I really ready? Am I going to be okay?"
But what besides the environmental changes in Mongolia, what else could you have not been prepared for? It was the amount of riding experience you've got.
Well, you just don't know. Like I think there was a lot of riders there that were very, very experienced, capable riders that were riding at all sorts of different levels. But these are different horses. They have different. They've been trained differently. It's a different environment. There's a lot of variables in horse riding that you can not always influence or control, or that you just need to try and prepare for as best you can. So, I was worried that I might get bucked off, or I might get kicked or bitten, or, left in the dirt somewhere and no one be able to find me.
That's a very real thing, isn't it? Because there's a lot of space. You know what? What was it like when you landed in Mongolia?
Amazing. Yeah. Oh my God. That countryside is just phenomenal. Like I remember when we flew in and just looking down out of the plane, you could just see these flat grasslands and then these sloping mountains in the background. And the one thing about living in Western society is we put walls up around everything. Everything's got to have a fence. This is my bit of land. This is your bit of land. This is, and so I think having to see that in Mongolia is one of the last places where that exists. You
did a lot of research before you went. Was it anything like what you thought?
Yeah, it was. It was so cool. The people in the Mongolians are just such an amazing country. They're amazing people, and they're very proud culture, and that I guess that nomadic lifestyle, and it sort of. Yeah, they're very in tune with their nature. Jeez, okay, English. So they're very in tune with. Sorry. They're just really in tune with the land. They live in a very harsh climate. They have temperatures ranging from 40 degrees to minus 40 degrees.
Really?
Yeah, and they really have been hit quite badly by climate change as well. So they've lost a lot of livestock. I think it was in 2008 or 2011 they had one of the worst sort of snowstorm ice experiences, and all the livestock perished. So there's a big challenge or problem in Mongolia where many of the herding families have had to move back into Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital, and they live now, I guess, in outer slums because they're uneducated, they can't get work in the cities, and they can't work off the land because they don't have the animals.
And so the Mongol Derby is a huge event for the community?
There's a lot of really cool things happening in Mongolia in that adventure tourism space.
Okay.
So there's a lot of tourism operators that are reaching out to either herding families to run sort of more sedate tours. There's off-road, so like, the motorbikes, 4 drives, that kind of thing, doing sort of overland racing. And that's becoming really popular there. So there's a tourist culture, and there's mining in Mongolia. There's a bit of gold, bit of gold and copper around there. So, those sorts of things will help. But
well, there were several stages before you start the race. There's the introduction. I mean, when did you just switch into racing mode? Were you nervous pretty much until you got on, talk me through the process, the first day at the start, or when you arrive to start the Derby?
Oh, when I arrived, definitely was suffering from imposter syndrome. We started meeting some of the other riders, and there's all these, they're fit.
But surely there were some other poses there. Surely.
Oh, there probably was.
I looked at the photo. There definitely were.
But look, there was, really fit people that had had some great experiences. Some riders had done the Derby before. Other riders had done similar types of long distance races. So that was a bit daunting. But I guess everyone just brought a different element and a different type of experience. And so that was sort of, the first part of it, I remember thinking, oh, what am I done? But everyone was a bit like that. We were all a bit nervous, I guess. And then we went out to do the training for sort of a day and a half, and that was good to get on. Once we got on the horses, I think everyone felt better. I think that was the bit that was sort of a bit of a relief.
Did you spend much time on the plains? I saw a lot of the photos of the race. Did you ever? Because there were groups of you, how many races? There was 55 races, wasn't there?
48.
48 races. Were you ever out on those plains by yourself?
Not, yes. Yeah.
What did you think about?
That was one of the things that I struggled with. So a lot of other riders were really good in that they were quite comfortable to just go on their own, and they had no issue. I was a bit more cautious, and for me, I didn't care about winning. I didn't, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to finish, and I wanted to do it in the right way. And for me, the big thing was I wanted to get in with healthy horses. I wanted a clear vet card.
You did that research, didn't you, with your friend? You got some really good tips about what horses to pick, didn't you?
I did ask Sam about that, and she gave me some really good advice. But the reality of it is, half the time, you just get on. You just get on and you get on with it. Sometimes it's the luck of the draw. You pick one that you think's great, and then they're a bit keen to go back to their friends, or they're not very confident, or whatever. I think when I go back to do it again, I'll probably be more comfortable riding on my own. And that was I just wasn't comfortable.
That's not unusual, though, to be on a foreign plane, in another hemisphere, I believe. Yeah, another hemisphere.
My navigational skills were somewhat questionable as well.
Not even kind of shocked. And
when you get tired, that's really hard. Like if you're trying to navigate when you're a bit fatigued.
Can you describe how tired and hungry you got on that?
Hungry, I wasn't too bad. There was always generally sort of food around, and you just sort of scampered up whatever you could. Tired, it was the mental stuff. So it was the biggest part I found was 8 Ks out of each station. You started to be like, oh, are we ever going to get there? And then it was during the middle of the day. So I always, and even naturally as how I work, I get a bit fatigued from sort of 1 till 2, and I used to find that time, middle part of the day, just mentally really tough. And I thought, I think on day 8 or day 9, I thought, oh, you're nearly there, you're nearly done. In my mind before I left, I was thinking, oh, the closer you get, the easier it's going to be, because you've only got, X number of horse stations to get to. But it was actually the opposite. I found myself going, I'll just give up now. Mentally telling myself, oh, it'll be just, who cares? No one's going to care if you give up.
I knew you wouldn't. That was my biggest fear, was that you would put yourself in hospital if not worse, because you wouldn't quit.
Yep.
And you got quite sick as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we got a tummy bug, I think, on day 3, and that was really, really bad. I was really, really sick and dehydrated, and then I got a saddle rub from my water bladder had been leaking down my shirt onto the back of my legs, and just essentially basically shredded the back of my leg, and that was horrendous because it just meant that I couldn't sit in the saddle. I literally had to sort of stand the whole time.
Ugh.
And you felt like, it was very
How far into the race was that?
Day 3, day 2.
You started getting a saddle sore
Yeah.
day 3.
Yeah.
And for how many more days did you ride?
Till day 10. Yeah. 8 days.
Another week.
Yeah. But it was funny. I got to, I think, day 4 or day 5 and just got really annoyed with it. Like, I was just like, I'm so sick of this thing hurting me, and I'm so sick of the way that I'm the way I was reacting to the pain. And I remember just sitting really hard in the saddle every single time, just pushing harder and harder into that pain. And then once I got over that, I was like, right, this is what you've just got to accept. And Adele, one of the other riders, she said to me, she goes, I think it was on day 3 or day 4, she said, eventually your body's just going to accept that this is what we do now and this is how it is now. And that was exactly what it was. It was literally like, yeah, it's going to hurt. You're just going to have to accept it and get on with it. And that changed it for me big time. Like, I still got fatigued and I still got tired, but for that was the catalyst for me, that moment out there where I was like, you are pushing through this, you're going to get through it, and you're just going to grind it out. And every time it hurt, I would push into it a little bit harder because I'd get a bit annoyed.
That was intense. But I know I'm just squirming at the thought of it, but I'm not surprised that you have that capacity to do that. One of the things I was always curious about, because we never really did have a debrief upon your return, you got quite sick. You say it's a 1,000-kilometre race. It works out at about 1,400 kilometres. I was watching this little dot on this map and this GPS signal. You covered a lot of territory. How sick did you get?
Well, there was, I suppose, the food or some sort of a tummy virus that I got on the 2nd or the 3rd night. And that was... I remember laying in bed just feeling so sick and like shaking and just I couldn't sleep.
It was a form of food poisoning, or you weren't sure, but it was happening both ends. You weren't well.
Oh, no, I was not well. And then I remember laying there just trying to like shaking really violently, being really like almost delusional. Like I wasn't kind of right. And I was like, I can't get pulled. I can't tell anyone that I'm sick, because if I tell them that I'm sick, they might take me out of the race.
So you were more worried about being told to stop than actually quitting?
Yeah. That was my biggest fear, is that they would stop me from being allowed to ride.
Did you ever think about quitting?
Yes. Yeah. It was funny on day 9. Like, you nearly at the end, and it's like, there's only like 80 more Ks to go. We could just call it here.
Did you notice that happen during the race where before you went, 20 Ks was huge, and then 100 is nothing, and then you're actually like, only 80 more. Did you notice that, or was it just something that kind of happened while you're out there?
That probably happened beforehand, because I'd been riding short distances, like 20 Ks at home, and then I started riding the endurance stable, and I was riding sort of longer distances then, and so I think I did a couple of 40 Ks to qualify to do an 80 K. And I remember I was riding for Flamingo Endurance Arabians, and Claire, it was actually quite funny. I didn't tell you this, but I don't know if you were away or you might have been home, but it was when we had the flooding, and I drove down at like 2:00 in the morning or something to go and ride my first 80K endurance ride at Glen Innes.
I do remember this particular race.
Yeah.
And for anyone that doesn't know, February 2022,
We flooded.
flooding all over Brisbane, and where we lived was nearly underwater.
Yeah.
And you actually still, I forgot you
'Cause
went
I-
and still did a race.
That's right, yeah. And so I drove out and all the roads were closed, but I managed to get through on certain, I think I had to go through it a certain way anyway. But Claire had asked me to do an 80 and then suggested doing another one. And I was like, if I tell Craig I'm doing 2 80K rides in a row and this is my first 80K ride and we're flooding and I might not be able to get home, he's going to probably be a tiny bit annoyed. So I was like, I'm just not going to tell you. I'm just going to do it and hope that I can
I
get
love that
through.
you're saying that I've ever been able to prevent or even stand in the way or anything like that.
But I remember...
Just for reference, did you take the cruiser for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and my 4-wheel drive got her there safely, by the way.
Why was the hay had to be delivered today? Oh, that's right, because there's no 4-wheel
Because he's a
drive. 'Cause you
30-year-old
haven't had
car
one for
who
3
needs
weeks.
an engine rebuild. Time catches up with all of us. Anyway,
He spends more time at the mechanic than he does at home.
it's been a month.
And you say it like that, that's okay.
I've still got my car. Anyway, so you built up to that and you're out there in Mongolia. Did it feel like you trained enough to get you through? No.
Like when I do
You
it
still felt underprepared.
when I do it again, I will absolutely take a different route. Yeah, I will get a lot fitter. And
Where were you lacking?
I think my cardio endurance, so just longer endurance. So I'd done a lot of strength training, but probably hadn't done enough of getting on a bike and riding Ks and doing that kind of just long distance riding. And also it was just, just that fitness. I think I'm old now. I need to be a bit fitter to carry it. When you're a bit younger, you can probably get away with it. But
See, everyone needs a service every now and then. Wow. Okay, so I really, I can tell you're already planning to go again. We'll get to that, but we still haven't really finished the first time.
So
And how long did the race take you total? 10 days?
10 days, yeah.
And you came about middle of the field, right, your first time?
No, I was towards the back end. Yeah. But I mean, I think we had a field of, like I said, 48. Only 26 actually finished.
That would be midfield.
Something like that, yeah. The rest were either unfortunately taken out medically. So a lot of people got the tummy bug and it just took them out completely. They were really unlucky. Other people had other injuries that just took them out. And
were you allowed to get medical treatment during the race and continue? As in, if you got sick enough,
the medics were amazing. The amount of butts they got to see on that trip that were not sexy was just unbelievable. They were phenomenal.
To put corks in or something. Yeah.
No. So Intrepid Medics bring a team, and they're it's hard to describe to people the number of people that go into not only pulling the race together and coordinating it, but just looking after the riders in the field. There's 40 of us, but there's probably 500 people in the background pulling this race together. From herding families to the medics to the vets, and the vets were phenomenal. To the interpreters, to the cooks, to the people in the back at the stations coordinating, watching our little dots as they moved around, the comms, the media. It's a massive task, and there's so many things that can go wrong and so many variables, and you have to have people that are able to just roll with it and not, it wouldn't be an easy thing to coordinate.
So you get sick early on, you persevere. There were some updates and some videos, and did the joy of completing a day diminish with the ones where you were sick? Were there what days? Was it up and down, or did every day feel like a reset? Right, we'll have another crack, or were you just emptying the tank every day and wondering if you could go again? What was it like?
The evenings were the best. That was the beautiful time. Whether you were either, camping out somewhere or staying in the GERS, that was the nice time. You got to see
the traditional tents. The GERS.
Yeah. So you got to see the families. with their kids and cooking meals, and just this beautiful calmness to the place that really is the essence of Mongolia. You know, the horses were tied up on their lines, the men were standing around talking and joking and playing with the kids, and the women were cooking meals and looking after us. And that was you know, if I could breathe that in again, it just was so good. It was so good.
What was the sky like?
Oh, phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. Beautiful. Just seeing those grasslands, and it changed, you know, the landscape changed dramatically from sort of grassy sort of tundras and plains to really mountainous regions, and all through that the horses changed with that as well. So the breeding and you know, the size of the horses and all of that scope changed completely.
Was that the only time you could really take that in and appreciate it while you're racing?
No, there's lots of opportunities while we're riding to see other things and look at other things. And, you know, that was all. There was just something about the evenings that I loved.
Yeah, I'm just curious about, you know, in the midst of a race, navigating, shitting your insides out, just not being in general health. I was wondering if you really got a chance to actually take in your surroundings, and you still did?
Yeah, I didn't take very good photos, but I did get to take in my surroundings.
Never have, but there is also a beauty to just being saturated in your surroundings. And
completely. And just not having to worry about stuff, like no phone, no Western world, no creature comforts.
Did you think much about home at all? Yeah, while you're away. Yeah, I'm not shocked.
I hear people.
You should try to get her to answer a text.
I was thinking about my family while I was blah blah blah, and they motivated me to do this. Like,
were those all the people that didn't end up making it?
No, I don't know. Just yeah, yeah. I didn't think about it. I just was there to be in the moment, and that's the thing about being around horses is you're in the moment. You can leave all of that rubbish behind, and that was 10 days of just didn't care about anything, didn't have to worry about anything. And
I mean, you had some stuff you had to care about.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I don't know. That stuff seems easy in comparison to the crap we put in our lives sometimes. So
you think? Because we'll get to that's an interesting point, but you got to the 9th day and you said you actually thought about quitting. So for you to say that's I can't fathom it. I can't actually fathom you quitting anything, even though I know you should sometimes, but I can't comprehend you being in that mindset. Where were you then?
I think that was just so that 9th day, we rode out in the morning and we got lost. And it rained all morning, so we were just wet through and through. We got to that, I don't know what number horse station it was, 26 or 25, 26. And I got hypothermia. So I was going to get pulled anyway if I didn't come through. I think Andy said to me, like, you got 20 minutes. Otherwise, if you don't start coming good.
To get over hypothermia?
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you know what I ate? They had bloody pickles there. Oh, my God. Now every time I see a pickle, I just want to eat them. Don't know what it was. It was just pickles and some crackers.
Pickles saved my life.
A pickle saved my life. No, actually, to be honest, a pickle and Ariana and Kate and Meredith just being amazing.
You had a little crew, didn't you?
Yeah. They were just amazing and so supportive, and we just, Kate in particular was really trying to pep everyone up and get things moving. So I think that was a big kicker for me. But it was just funny that it did that. Once we got back out and we were going, I was fine again. But I did have that brief moment of, maybe it's. But then I also was like, no, I'm not getting this close and not finishing. That's not fair. Yeah.
You had some support on the and you end up making it through. What is that last 5 kilometres
Oh, that was
Or
forever.
When is
That was the worst. We're all over it by then. And it was like, this is the longest 5Ks of the whole ride.
So when did the joy kick in?
That was the weird bit. I was really happy to get there and I was really happy to finish, but I thought that I was going to have this kind of life epiphany kind of experience out on the step. Like that was my expect. I was like, it's going to.
You don't think you had it?
I think there was just so much to take in. I couldn't comprehend it at the time. I couldn't really absorb what had happened. So I was really happy to finish and I was so stoked to see everyone. Like it was so nice to know, people that, because you didn't really know a lot of what was happening. You got tidbits of information, but so you knew who had kind of won, but where the rest of the field were, if everyone was okay. You didn't necessarily know a lot about what was going on because you were just focusing on your race. So that was lovely to know that everyone was okay and just to be able to say thank you to everyone that had sort of looked after us. Yeah, it didn't happen. And it was weird. Like that night we had a big party and like everyone was partying on and going crazy. And I just remember walking outside and sitting outside by myself and just staring up at the stars for like 15, 20 minutes and just being like, and I'll never forget that skyline and I'll never forget that night. Like I was like, geez, I wish they'd just bloody turn the AC/DC off in the background and just be a bit silent.
But that really does sound like you.
Oh, I just wanted to be in the moment by myself and just take it all in. And yeah, it was an amazing experience and it was amazing, but it was also hard to watch other people struggle. When people that you'd met during the race for whatever reason had got sick or were going and at times you were able to help people and then at times you had to make tough decisions and you had to say
it was a race.
Yeah, it's a race. I can't keep helping you or I'm a whatever reason. That was hard to and especially other people, everyone's got their own story, right? Everyone's got their own challenge and their own backstory. And so learning some of those things about the people that were in the race and then seeing them struggle or not be able to finish, that was upsetting for me because I was like, you came for the same reason I did.
And that all hit you that time after the race by yourself?
A little bit after the race. No, during the race there was times where it was a bit emotional, whether you had to make a call and be like, I have to go, guys, I can't, or yeah.
Does it feel like the people in that race are kind of the only people that could comprehend this?
I think anyone that's done the Derby would get it. I think that everyone, and I think the thing about the Derby is everyone is riding their own ride. Like you're riding your own race. You're doing it for whatever reason you're doing it for, and you're going to take out of it what you want to take out of it.
You've already said you're going to compete again.
Mm.
You were a bit of a shell of yourself when you came back. Like you left nothing in the tank. You were a fraction of your size when you got back. You lost a lot of muscle mass. The first night you were back and it rained heavy. You struggled in the house. Like you had some, call it trauma, but there was definitely some overlapping mental stuff you still had to deal with. How long until you decided you were going to do it again?
Oh, it was a while.
Really?
It was a couple of weeks. Like I got back and I was like, I didn't know what I felt about the race. And then that, one of the profound things I learned about the race, and this was one of the other riders, Olaf, said it to me. And mate, that guy is an absolute Trojan. We nicknamed him the Viking.
He's a Viking.
Yeah, we nicknamed him the Viking. But he just pushed on and gave it everything he had. And he was really unlucky. He made some unfortunate decisions and but never ever gave up. And I remember being in one of the Gers with him one night and he said, the biggest thing it has taught him is about the human spirit, and that no matter how bad or how difficult things are, we as humans have this innate ability to try and find the positive in things and to want to just keep going and keep trying. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of true. And so once I think my butt had healed from all the bloody saddle rash and that, I think once I'd gotten over that, I sort of thought I might want to do it again. But I also couldn't ride a horse when I got back. I didn't know how to anymore. I hopped on a horse, I don't know, 3 or 4 days after I got home. I couldn't ride. I couldn't ride a circle. Couldn't do anything. It was useless. And it terrified me. I was like, oh my God, that's it. I've lost my ability. But apparently a lot of the other riders had that experience where they just just riding very, very unusual horses made your
You, like anything, you get used to something over such a short period of time, you don't know anything else. That makes sense. I guess, what is this journey back to Mongolia going to look like for you?
I'm going to go to Patagonia first. I'm going to do the gaucho in Patagonia. And then I'm going to...
It's the first I'm hearing of this, by the way.
And then I'm going to I thought I might do another race as well in South Africa and then toddle on back to Mongolia.
Interesting. And what sort of time frame are you looking at?
I haven't set one yet.
Yeah? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll conclude. Right. We will conclude with this.
Horsey girls are the toughest women on the planet. Think about this. They're strong like gymnasts. They ride 600-kilogram beasts. A horse crippled Superman, for sakes, okay? And these girls, they get thrown, they get kicked, they get bitten, and they just get up and they go again because they've got this one little pathological tick. No matter what happens, it's never the horse's fault. I've seen a girl get bitten on the neck by her horse and she just goes, I should have fed him sooner. It's insane. My wife got kicked in the face by her horse. Split her top lip, broke her nose, 2 black eyes. She's out cold. I run into the paddock to rescue her. I put my hand behind her back and she comes to and just goes, I shouldn't have snuck up on him. It's insane. Now look, it's great that she's got a passion. I'm glad she's got something that she loves. I'm trying to be a supportive husband. I really am. But I got enough shit to deal with as an Aboriginal man married to a white woman without taking her to the shops. The looks, people, the looks. People look at her and they're like, ah! They look at me and they're like, Yeah, they didn't blame the horse either. But while all this is going on, this socially awkward, horrible situation's happening and I just want to hide. My wife is limping up to people in the shopping centre going, shouldn't have snuck up on him. Thank you so much, St. Helens. Yeah.
Can I please get your reaction, just your thoughts to the horse joke? It's something that is again blowing up. How do you feel about it now?
I think it's hilarious, but I think what is even funnier is the bloody stuff on Instagram of people using it as motivational music or a soundtrack for them jumping their horses. And it's like, it's about domestic violence. Like, it's just...
Yes.
I think, like, I just love the way the horse community... The horse community doesn't agree on a lot of things. Like, we really don't. We're not a well-aligned group. But when it comes to accidents or incidents, the truth behind that it's never the horse's fault, it's just so real. And I think someone that isn't interested, you're not interested in horses, the fact that you could see that from the outset makes it funnier. And there's so many things in the horse industry that are just so weird and unusual.
But that's the one unifying.
Yeah, that is the unifier. It doesn't matter what discipline you're from. Everyone will be like, yeah. And everyone's got, and the funny bit is when you see people tag their friends and are like, hey, remember, Rodney or Ruby or whatever the horse's name is. And you're just like, I'd love to know the story behind what happened.
Well, yeah, we're going to pull some stories I feel like I'm gonna squirm. Like you guys compare. You compare horse injuries. Like, yeah, look at you. You're actually kind of pumped.
Some of these are pretty funny.
Okay. Well then, all right. So what we're gonna do for people that did contribute on the Facebook page, we're just going to react to that. I didn't read these, even though I know people kept posting them. I was trying very hard not to read them. Sarah's gonna read them to me, and we're gonna discuss, because I reckon you might be like, you'll hear them and you'll get them more, and I'll just be shocked. But hit me with this first one, and yeah.
Do I say the person's name?
Yeah, may as well.
So a lot of these are very funny because it's just people tagging their friends in it, and I totally know that they're tagging their friends in it because their friend has had an injury. But this one, Martine Corneo, apologies if I've said her surname incorrectly. My collarbone got bitten through a winter coat by a one-day-old foal. I was being very wary of the mare. I swear she watched the scene and giggled.
So she was watching the mum.
Yeah.
And the baby came up and bit her through. See, they become evil very young.
This one is one of my favourites from Corrine Weiss, but it's not so much what she's written, it's the photo.
Yeah, sure. Show me the photo after you.
So the thing is just I was standing too close. It's the biggest egg.
Ah, man.
How good is that?
Oh, that is flush.
Just like, that's next level.
That's so huge. And she just got, and that's a kick. Or
no, she was just standing too close and got headbutted.
It's a headbutt.
Yeah, her horse has got a giant head though, so I'll give her credit.
It's a horse headbutt, and she's just worn it.
There's a lot of other ones.
Maybe two more.
This is my favorite one, so maybe finish with this one. So this is from Jennifer Donker. She said, got kneed in the cheekbone when a horse I was working with stomped at flies while I was packing a crack in the front hoof. Hang on, I haven't finished.
Wait, what's the packing of a crack? Anyway, sorry.
You ruined it. Stop. Okay, so Jennifer Donker said, got kneed in the cheekbone when a horse I was working with stomped at flies while I was packing a crack in the front hoof. Shouldn't have had my face there. Flipped me over backwards and I could have sworn it broke my face from the loud crack I heard.
Oh, my God.
Luckily, it was just a nasty goose egg. Went to urgent care for x-rays. It was 110% my fault, but people who didn't know me looked at my now ex-husband sideways for a while. Just the bit where she's got shouldn't have had my face there.
Oh, goodness. So getting down, working on one hoof, cops a knee. So I guess from the back leg? No, packing the back hoof and gets a knee. Yep, gotcha.
The horse could have picked the front leg up.
Flipped her.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah. So
hell.
she might have just been standing on the...
Getting flipped by your face. All right. Can I have one more?
Oh, okay. Okay. This is from Sarah May. My horse and I had a disagreement about me riding him. Ended up giving me two black eyes. I swear I went to the store by myself and got those you poor girl looks. Even had a woman tell me to leave him. This is the best bit though. She said, I just said I can't or that would be animal abuse.
Oh. Wow, that is really similar to the bit. That is hilarious. And just finally, your horse injury. Do you
Which one?
The kick to the face?
Yeah.
Do you even remember it?
I remember I had to wear a red dress to a party the next day and everyone was freaking out about my face.
That you insisted on going to your birthday party.
I remember what happened and I remember when she had to put my face back together, that really hurt. But I was stoked because I got straight through an emergency. I didn't have to wait in the waiting room.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah, I was scaring the little children.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, I remember a little bit about after the accident, but I don't actually remember it happening.
And in true horsey girl, final question, true horsey girl fashion, how long after you got kicked in the face did you get back on? Do you remember?
That was a little while.
2-3 hours?
No, I think it was a couple of weeks.
Okay, couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Because I'd had a concussion. I got a concussion
Yes.
from it. Yeah.
Yes. it was a big one. It was huge. Well, this was fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cook me dinner now.
I always do.